Yeah, there is a deletion from our agenda, and that is our in-camera under personnel is not necessary. So could I have a motion, unless there's someone else, I wanted to add aerial spraying to aerial spraying under the business. Yep. Okay. Anything else? Then could someone move to the amended agenda?
Moved as amended.
Is there a seconder? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carries. The next, I'd like us to pause to seek guidance. And roll call, there is no regret, so I don't think we need to do roll call. The next thing, we have no presentation or delegation this evening. So of the minutes of August 13th, did anyone see any errors or omissions?
I move approval of the minutes of August 6th, 2024.
Is there a seconder? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next is the CAO report. September the 17th, there is no meeting. September the 24th, there's a council meeting. October the 1st, the bylaw and policy. October the 8th is committee of the whole. October the 15th is no meeting. October the 22nd is council, and that's still all of us who are still here. Is there any questions or concerns?
I just wanted to say I won't be able to attend the meeting on the 24th.
Okay.
Is that the last meeting? The 24th?
No.
Well, after the
We go till October, the end of October.
There may also potentially be a public hearing at the October council meeting prior to it, depending on a motion made at the September council meeting.
Yes.
So just keep in mind you might need to be available for 4:30 on the 22nd.
Okay. Is there any questions from the CAO update?
The only one I wanted to flag, and I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later at item 4.3, but we have with the province announcing the new registration system in August for roofed accommodations. We have had to participate in that process, so we have developed an internal process that's working quite smoothly for the businesses that require those letters. We've seen, at the time of my report, we had processed 20. We're probably up to about 30 now, and a gap in between. That deadline is the end of September, so there's a few more catching on. But like I said, we'll talk about that more, I believe, in item 4.3.
And the departmental reports. Is there any questions or concerns on any of them? Everyone seems to have been busy. Would someone like to move the acceptance of the department report?
So,
Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. I just want to say that I think we will miss Kenny Parker. He's been a long time employee with us. And as he goes to a new job, I wish him well.
Who?
Kenny Carter.
Oh, yeah.
With our airport dispatch.
Whose place is he taking over the older guy?
That's not been public yet.
No.
So all we know right now is he left his job to go to other jobs. There's nothing under dangers and on site like under business items. JCP Fire District Concern.
So in the process of conducting regular fire inspections at the JCP property, our building inspector was engaged in a conversation with the manager of the property with a concern and asked what he should do with his concerns. So we get the homeowner to put his concerns in writing to us. So that's the letter that you see in front of you is JCP. I think everyone's aware where Johnson Christian Park is there on the corner of Cicero Road and North Range Crossroad. So it is at an area that is very much a kind of an intersection of two fire districts. So as soon as we got the letter, we reached out to Bruce Snell to understand the fire districts and the overlap and the history of this is territory. We know you don't just move fire district, right? And we knew that was going to be. So just trying to understand this area, how the chiefs have handled it in the past. So already in place when this letter was written is a mutual aid agreement between Bear River is the covering fire department for that area. There was already a default mutual aid agreement in place with Digby and Brighton Barton that if there was a structure fire in that area, that mutual aid to all three. So that was already done pre-letter. So that probably would have been our first response back. Since then, Bruce has facilitated some great conversations with the Bear River Fire Chief and the Brighton Barton Fire Chief. And that agreement has been extended to any calls in that area from South Range to North Range on the Cicero Road there will be immediate mutual aid. So that is a great work by our fire departments to identify that any solution other than that was going to be very, very cumbersome and very challenging for numerous reasons. As mutual aid is a huge part of any success we have in this area with our departments. So we weren't meaning to have it solved. And just once the conversation started, both chiefs very quickly, that was the solution. So it's a good news story for me to report. So my suggestion would be if someone could move that we write a letter back to JCP outlining the changes that have been made to coverage in their area. And we're quite confident that between those two separate mutual aid agreements, this area is covered very well. We are aware that we've set a bit of a precedent here, but I think everybody understood that this is a unique area that while we have areas that are intersections for our other departments, this one is just a bit of an odd piece of geography that both chiefs are ready for now, understanding that this is something that's probably going to be looked at in the next couple of years on a bigger picture scale. Right?
I'll make a motion to send a letter to Mr. Bob Howe, past chairperson of the JCP, Johnson Christian Park, and to let him know that those changes to mutual aid.
Is there a seconder?
Sorry.
I defer to
Any-
George.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next is the Friends of Farrell request. They are building a building for their animals, and they're looking for $50,000 from the municipality. And they're starting in September of this year, with construction beginning in spring of 25, with the fall of 25 being constructed.
Yes, I just have a question on where the money would come from for this type of project.
So I guess depending on the direction of council's wishes, it's not a clear answer. Obviously, they filled out the community grants application that this would be a lot for. So I guess I would say we don't have other pots that we normally would fund something like this out of certainly mid-year, right? Mid-year, community grants would be the only location we would have any funding. So I know that feels like I'm suggesting that they may apply in April, but there's no other fund for them to apply for with us, other than we would just choose to fund it out of the operating budget, which would be very new territory for us to move into. So it is, like I said, depending on the conversation, there may be other opinions or it could be in other directions, but we did spend some time contemplating that with the size of this request, and it's just,
Could it be split in half? Like, if we had money, I don't know, how much is left in the,
We have
19,000?
We have that much money left in the, really? I thought we,
So.
Big ask for what we usually
what
got.
do they have, what was the amount? You already
$50,000.
How much?
50.
50,000.
So, what I was wondering is, could we look at something like 15,000 from this year and 35 from next? This is a capital expense. It's a one-time ask for capital. We have helped with other capital expenses in the past. Pardon?
I can't get my computer to work.
No.
Frozen.
It's behind you.
Oh, good.
So how do others feel?
A cat rescue shelter? No.
I think we need to think about it. We have 2 other shelters that we fund.
No, we don't.
And
Where's the
we
2 shelters?
we have the one that we give to Melissa. She has a building that she asked for money for.
And that was in Clare, yeah.
And that's cats.
This one's in the town of Digby.
Yeah, this is Friends of Barrel.
This is Friends of Farrell, totally different.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like it's a hard one because then you've got the Fish and Game that needs 100,000 for a roof. What do we do with that building? So are we making a new pot? Like, what are we dipping from?
It's too much.
I think we should put.
50,000 is insane too. That's an extremely high amount.
I mean, it's a lot of money here,
Mhm.
and then we've got other buildings that are.
And then they're gonna have to maintain the building for cats.
Because I know there'll be a quick ask from
Well,
Fish and Game
they're,
for 100,000.
what they're looking at is.
Why did the Fish and Games ask for 100,000? We do that now? We give that kind of money to things like that?
Fix
That would be the whole roof. Why would we cover the whole roof?
Why would we build a building?
This is
Exactly.
200,000 if you look at it, the amount.
just a reminder, so this is getting the whole, I think we can, one at a time.
I'm not
We'll
saying
revert
no.
to-
I'm just wondering how we
This
can.
is my point, so I think we're gonna revert to the chair running the meeting, and she will acknowledge when everybody is supposed to speak, okay?
All
We're
right,
getting a little out of hand here with speaking over top of everybody.
all right. Go ahead, Matthew.
No, I'm just wondering how we can approach it. Is there a new pod? Is there? 'Cause I'm not saying no to it. I'm just wondering how. Because those are big asks, right? So, and I'm wondering if the town's going to help with that, like how it's all. I don't want to make a decision tonight. It's new, and I think there's some other funding. I do want to help. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to make that decision tonight. That's all. I'd like to give it some thought. And I think there's some,
We would never make a decision today.
Yeah.
We'd go
and
on.
I think maybe pass it along to our bylaw. We can talk about our grants, organizations and stuff like that. So that's how I feel about it right now.
Okay. Angela, how do you feel?
I agree with Matt to some extent. I think that we need more information. I'm not saying no either, but I would like to, it is a big ask out of our grant to community organizations, and I'm not sure. Like if we could do like a multi-year contribution, but, and I couldn't read the whole thing because it's stopped partway down. And, I just was curious too, about where the other monies was coming from.
Okay, by the organization, $80,000, from various fundraising, $70,000.
I see, yeah.
So it's like $250,000 cat house?
Contributed by the organization, so
Yeah.
they're giving 80, and they're gonna fundraise for 70.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was just curious why, because they were gonna kick off a campaign with the barbecue with the MLHO officer, so I was wondering if there was provincial funding going
That-
into the project, or
Doesn't say.
what that point meant, so. Okay, sure.
George,
Well, about the funding, I thought I read in there somewhere that the town had given them a piece of land. So that may be their contribution or part of their
Yes,
contribution. To me, $50,000 is a big ask for times are hard. I'm sure lots of other things we could spend our money on. And like Angela, that 50,000 is a big ask. Maybe we could spread it over 3 or 4 years, 10,000 a year. But still, it is a big ask for a place to use taxes.
And
Unconscionable waste of money. It would be, to give them $50,000 for this, when we have roads falling into the ocean that we can't afford to fix, is the height of irresponsible. That's my thoughts on this.
okay, so would you like
Jeff has his hand
also just
So I had anticipated there may be a request for more information. So I guess it's that or a presentation would be my suggestion, and we could highlight for them to bring. Because I do agree, we were a bit surprised by the size of the ask with the information that was presented. It is a challenge. You've heard me say we have not come up with a solution for, well, one, because we got to come up with the money. It'd be great to have a second program, right? That you've heard me say. I'd love to cap grants to community organizations at $5,000 requests and have another pot. The problem is, how big is that other pot? Because when we get those bigger requests, they're like this, or they're like the wharf, or the community navigator. They are significant. So that pot's going to get used with one ask, and then the second person to the table in that new budget year. So it has been very challenging. I anticipate we'll have more conversations on how do we deal with these big asks our community keep hitting us with, right? This won't be the last one.
Yeah.
But it was just, if there's clear information we can ask for, I can do that, or where are we on a presentation?
on the presentation?
Yeah,
Presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. We would ask that you set up a presentation.
And maybe a nudge that a bit more information on the financials or the
That's right.
fundraising. Yeah.
Access to financing for the build, and then maybe a loan that can be.
Okay. Perfect.
It did say under other federal municipal provincial $40,000, but I can't tell you what that means. Okay, so now the next is fee for short-term accommodation letter. Councilor Tudor.
We are now, the province is charging $500 to register your Airbnb. However, we're the ones doing all the work. And I was thinking if we got Tyler spending half of his day or however much he spends, that we should charge the people for that letter because of the amount of work we're putting into it. The province has loaded this on us. They're taking a bunch of money. We are. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of money, maybe $200 or whatever, just so we're not losing on the deal. And it also would be a small little push towards discouraging all these Airbnbs that we have in lack of housing. It seems like the feds are doing something, the province is doing something, and it's death of 1,000 cuts. And so I'm on board with that approach, and I'm definitely not on board with the taxpayers paying Tyler to do up these letters beyond his regular duties.
Okay, could I have a say against you, please?
So I do appreciate you looking out for us and the revenue. So I agree that the province definitely downloaded this out of nowheres onto us. So we did look at this as to, is it something that's going to merit a fee? How much work is involved? So there's a few different points to consider when looking at that. One, Traditional businesses, like Briar Island Lodge, also require this letter. So that was one of the hugely impactful decisions on if everybody requires this letter, that changed our mind on it.
Yeah, it did. It does.
So the other thing we looked at is Tyler can pipe up here with an exact number, but 10 to 15 minutes for the base applications. Jump in if I'm off.
Oh, so it's not.
So
that much
it's
then.
not
An hour,
the ones that are in. Help me out, Tyler. The newer ones in the newly zoned area require a full development permit. So they are going through our paid process to get this, because there's a different set of rules. If you started an Airbnb before, you're not grandfathered by anything. So that process, and we're charging our regular fee for that.
But how much is that? Sorry to interrupt. $10?
$10.
So no, sort of.
So, and this is a one, now, again, we're putting our faith in the province, which is always a place that sometimes is concerning to put it. This is a one-time letter, is what they have told us.
Oh, so it's not every year.
It's not annual. There has been extreme opposition, I would suggest, in a world where we go to NSFM or these conversations continue into the fall for everyone that's here after the election. The opposition you're going to continue to hear about this is extreme. Areas that have more strict zoning than us and higher either traditional rental places or higher amount of Airbnbs, this is causing chaos. That people were not ready for the province to roll this out. They set the deadline in legislation, I believe, so there has been no willingness to date to move the September 30th deadline. There is a lot of feelings about the amount of work involved, but for us, it hasn't been too bad. We're rolling very quickly towards the end of the month. Most places have been pretty good. The staff understand our system. The front counter staff gather 5 or 6 questions with base information. Tyler confirms it, checks it with the zoning to the time that the business has been operating, and then the decision is made whether it's just me signing a letter. The province gave us a pre-written letter that we fill in the information. The ones that do require zoning go through a development permit process. And so far, it is working decently. But a huge factor is the amount of time, which wasn't too significant, and the fact that the traditional businesses required them as well. They don't have to pay, the province did not increase the registration fees as steeply for them, but they still caught them in the same regulation. So that was kind of where we came down on that line, why we didn't come to you looking for a fee.
I also want to try to discourage it's getting out of control. Like, it's still going on. They're still selling business. It's almost some places the people, you don't even know who they are, and then they rent them out. They're not even in the country half the time. It's getting extreme. It's the only way to put it. It's getting worse all the time.
You could still make a motion to maybe a front page article to Coastline, recognize me when I'm behind.
I think that.
I thought you were going to say for sure we should charge $100 or $200 just pass. Maybe.
Okay. I guess there's no further thing we can do on that, but I appreciate you bringing it up. Next is Angela under aerial spraying.
Yeah, I just had a lot of calls with the aerial spraying getting ready to take place, and there's one area that I can't tell from Digby Municipality or Annapolis. It was one that came up later, Thomas Road, and I went out to look for the sign because I know the Bear First Nation has already put in a complaint to the province. So anyway, I guess it doesn't really matter to me if it's on the Annapolis side or the Digby side. I'd like for us to write a letter because there is where they're spraying, there's water courses. They're posting signs in the woods where nobody is to tell the deer and rabbits not to eat. The leaves and the berries and stuff, and it's just a really archaic way of doing business, and the only people who benefit from it are the people in the forestry industry. It's not so something that the landowner benefits from, or anyone else? Anyone else? Just the one that's buying lumber? Yeah, and I know that if they spray, they're supposed to tell the municipality. So I'm not sure if we have received any notification that they're gonna be spraying. And I can't, like I say, I went to go back there and I couldn't tell them. It may possibly be in Apple County, and that's why, but I know that's one of the guidelines, so. I'd just like for us to write a letter to the environment to ask them to find, to stop doing it. And there are other ways that the work can be done, just labor intensive. Go ahead.
So again, I think, I can't remember if it was a year or 2 years ago, we've discussed this before. I think one of the challenges we acknowledged before, and I think we still may have wrote a letter, but just wanted to remind you, like, the landowner, the spraying only takes place on land where the landowners have requested, right? That's
But it's
private.
from a helicopter, so it's like.
Oh, I agree, but I'm just saying, just for clarity,
Yeah.
like, this isn't DNR land that they're spraying or other government land. This is landowners or woodlot owners that haven't switched to the new practices, still use this, or who requests it. That's what we
They
learned.
have to get a permit from the province. To do
Yes,
it. Yeah.
but I'm saying, this is a private landowner made a decision on how to manage their private land.
Yeah.
And that was just a part that took us a while to get to last time. So that's where this happens and why it happens on the lands that it does. It's not as broad scale. My memory is slightly foggy. I do believe last time we were aware of it and discussing it because we were provided notice of there were PIDs here, but I also know you as counselors, it was a much broader conference. There was a lot of PIDs in this area last time, and I mean area by, I think, Clare, Digby, and Annapolis, right?
Yeah.
But this one, I believe, I've seen a little bit on it, not a lot, but is it a smaller one? But no, we have not gotten official notice.
Yeah.
I'm aware of.
And maybe now. Anyway, I'd just like a letter written that I wish that they would consider the use of aerial spraying.
So are you making that a motion?
I will, yeah.
Is there a seconder? David? Any further discussion? I mean, I do understand. I think, from the last letter we received, they said it was very safe practice.
Yeah, it
I'm
was,
just
that's what it
trying,
said,
I'm trying to remember exactly.
Yeah,
But
it was within their guidelines.
Yeah, and, it never hurts to try again. So, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. The next, under correspondence, we have a thank you from the Richard Ellis Golf Tournament. Any questions, concerns? Do we have adjournment? Is there a seconder?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion